Hi guys. As Mr. Banks has said, I was in Vietnam when the Vietnam War was on, and I just want to start off this little talk by correcting a misapprehension that's rife in the community at the moment, that we should not have been in Vietnam, in the Vietnam War, and we shouldn't have, and we lost. And both of those public common assumptions right now are wrong. In the early 1960s, when we committed to put troops in Vietnam, communism was a great threat right throughout the world, and in particular in our part of the woods. And the communists had already had an opportunity, or taken an opportunity, to extend their influence south towards Australia, but that was halted in Korea by a United Nations force that was made up of a number of countries around the world, and they were able to prevail, and so the advance of communism through Korea was halted. And the perception in Australia was that in the early 1960s, communism was threatening to envelop Australia. North Vietnam was communist. The communist terrorists were rife in Malaya, or what was then about to become Malaysia. The whole of the huge population of Indonesia was communist, and they were already at war with their near neighbours because they didn't like the idea of Malaya combining forces or having an agreement with Brunei and Sarawak and so on. So they'd launched a full-scale assault, and the perception in Australia was that communism was a great threat to our way of life. And for the older generation in Australia, we'd seen the speed with which the Japanese army during the Second World War had invaded right through Southeast Asia, one country after another, and including Singapore, which was a British stronghold, impregnable stronghold, except that it proved to be totally pregnable. And so we were faced with this problem of the advance of communism. Now, the Yanks were also aware of this expansion of communism and had decided to make a stand in Vietnam by helping the South Vietnamese. And they very much needed other countries to join with them, so they were not being seen as the aggressors. And Australia very wisely realised that if we were to have any hope of defending Australia, we were going to need some help. And the only place that help was going to come from would be from the United States of America. So when the Yanks said, give us a hand in Vietnam, the Australian government very wisely volunteered to enter the war in Vietnam. I was in the army then at that stage, and was posted to a battalion based at Enoggera in Brisbane to the 2nd Battalion. And when, because of this threat of communism, the government decided we needed a much bigger army, and voluntary recruitment was not going to fill the bill, so they introduced national service, which was a requirement for 20-year-olds to serve 2 years, and but to have enlisted the whole cohort of 20-year-olds would have been too many people. So they invented this system of pulling numbers out of a barrel, and if your birth date was on that number, then you were in, and if it wasn't, then you were out. So the Australian Army expanded. The unit I was in was split in two to form a new unit, the 6th Battalion of the Royal Australian Regiment, and I was posted as a company commander in that unit. And a whole bunch of these brand new national servicemen were posted to my company for their training, and I have to tell you, they turned out to be great soldiers, and most of them accepted their lot, even though a lot of their mates hadn't been called up, which could have been regarded as pretty unfair, but they accepted that it was their lot, and we set about training them, took them to Vietnam. So that unit was formed in June 65, and in June 66 that unit was sent to Vietnam. So after just 12 months in existence. So off we went to Vietnam, established a whole new base, took over responsibility for a whole province in South Vietnam, and proceeded to try and combat what was generally referred to as the Viet Cong, or VC. So that was in June 66 we were sent to Vietnam. In August 66 there was a big clash which became the Battle of Long Tan, and that's what I want to spend the rest of the time talking to you about.